Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ready, Set, Action. It's your weekly guide to navigating the world of business growth. I'm Kristina Witmer, a marketing veteran, and I'm joined by Debra Horowitz, a talent leader. Each week, we bring you some actionable tips and insights specifically designed for small business owners, as well as marketing and sales directors. I'd like to welcome our special guest this week, Zoe Meyer. She's an expert on customer advocacy, customer marketing, and customer experience. She has a real passion for diving into organizations and helping them create, revitalize, and expand their customer marketing advocacy programs. So, welcome, Zoe.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We're looking forward to
welcome.
this one.
Yes, customer advocacy, I think, is something that Kristina and I are both very passionate about. In the talent world, it's more candidate experience focused, but it's basically very similar where we look at the employees as our advocates, for the brand. So I'm really excited to have some time with you today, Zoe. I guess my first question is, from a small business owner perspective, how can we effectively implement a customer advocacy program with limited resources, time and money?
You'd be surprised, Deb, that whether it's a large organization or an SMB, you can have limited resources in both setups. So, having gone through that myself, working with limited resources, the first thing is to get the internal buy-in that you're all on the same page, that you want to do this, and that there will be times when you may have to ask for a budget or ask for engagement with a customer where before you didn't have it. It's really, you need to be aligned internally as to why you're doing this and what are your resources that you have to offer. So once you've gone to that, it's then saying, okay, which customers or kinds of customers do we want to represent our brand? And it could be any kind. It could be those who are innovators with your product or service. It could be those who are thought leaders already in their industry, or it could be even customers who are just loyal to you without, you may not quite know 100% their story, but it could be any one of those. So you're identifying those happy customers once you've internally agreed that this is something you do want to do and you're going to be committed to doing it. I've seen programs start and stop because resources just stopped or they've decided to go in a different direction. This is really, it takes a village to get an advocacy program off the ground because you have to stay in lockstep and aligned that you want to execute this and stay committed to your customers.
Okay. It sounds doable to me. Just get it started, but the getting the alignment of everybody sounds painful.
Well, it may or may not be, because some other people, you also see where different teams or departments say, hey, let's do this. And so then you start seeing silos come up, and then you'll find one person internally to observe, hey, they were talking about this, that team was talking about that. Why don't we bring them all together? And you might be surprised that there's more than one team thinking about it. It's
Nice.
one team may be taking the initiative to bring everyone together to agree on it. But once you've done that, once you've agreed on it, once you have identified your resources and the brand advocates that you would like to engage with, it's then saying, what can we offer our brand advocates to be engaged with our business? Is it, we're going to write a customer story? Do we want to put resources and budget into videos? Do we want to capture quotes? What type of activities are you going to offer your customers to be engaged with your brand? And then once you've done that, it's how do you continue to keep them engaged with your brand and with you? Are you now offering a feedback loop, like maybe a customer advisory board, maybe a product advisory board? Is there some way you can continue to get feedback so you can improve what you offer to your customers to stay engaged with your brand?
I get it. Cool. So I'm curious about customer references. So it seems like there's some very traditional ways to use them and to sort of repurpose them. But have you seen much like cutting edge activities or kind of interesting ways to use customer references?
There was one company I worked at where we had a really forward-leaning web team, and one thing that I discovered in working with them is something called revenue acceleration platform. So an example of this is Drift, who has recently been purchased by SalesLoft, or another platform company is called Tribal. And so what these platforms do is they allow you to create an easy to navigate content strategy along with search engine optimization on your website. And along that customer strategy or content strategy you create, you can input customer evidence and create digital experiences so that each visitor becomes a VIP. Depending on what part of your site they go to, something else may be offered up to them. So it's really a great way to work also with limited resources, right? If you invest in that, to map out your experience digitally on your website. But this is something that's working behind the scenes. This is also something where you can leverage artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting. I think I think as owners of small businesses, we know the importance of the customer experience, right? And having an opportunity to have them come back to us time and time again is certainly much more cost effective than going out and acquiring just all new customers all the time. So from your experience, what are some of those big mistakes that companies make when it comes to customer service, and how could they avoid it, just so we can kind of get some pitfalls out there for our audience?
So there's two things I've seen, which is taking a siloed approach. So one team thinks they own everything. So taking a siloed approach and not including the internal stakeholders who touch the customer at different points in their journey with you. So that's one thing. So, and then the second thing is, let's create one big event, one big experience. And that they put all their resources, time, money, and effort into that one big thing. And then it's like crickets for a while, or it's inconsistent engagement until that next big event or that next big thing. I've seen that as well. And really the customer engagement needs to be a continuous loop. That experience of always engaging with your brand. And it gives you an opportunity then to have the entire company create a customer-centric mindset so that you're focused on the customer, you're working in lockstep with each other, and it becomes a collective engagement with your customer.
So would you help them kind of create that customer journey map so they have this 30,000 foot view of all of the touch points that happen with the customer and who plays a role during that time frame?
It takes many stakeholders, but let's just look at the buyer's journey. And there's two ways to look at it. I leverage the IDC customer experience loop, and that starts with they're exploring. So they're going out to a website, a product review site, social media, to then they're evaluating you. So they're probably reading a case study or actually reading that product review on you. Then they go to purchase, then they're looking to expand and renew, and then advocate. So I like to look at the customer experience through IDC's graph, and then you kind of ask yourself, where does it start and where does it stop? So it's not just one team starts it. It's continual. But you may also look at the buyer's journey as being awareness, consideration, purchase, retention, and then advocate. You also see that frequently. But I like to think of it as just one continual loop, and we all have an on and off ramp within the organization. And that's the reason it's so pivotal to be in alignment with each other. And you own this team may own this, like customer success may own renewal or what have you. Marketing may own, the awareness stage. But being in lockstep allows us to do a handoff. And it's never perfect. I doubt any organization does it perfectly. But the more you create that customer-centric mindset, the more you can work in tandem with each other to create better experiences.
I'm curious, like the evolution of that sort of customer marketing in that role that you've probably played many times, but how has it evolved, and sort of where do you think it's going? Like, is it going to change a lot, or is it obviously AI and other things are influencing things, but how has it evolved over some time?
I really think customer marketing. So, when I think back in 2010, when I first got involved with customer advocacy, it really started as customer references. I was tapped to with 3 other people to help resurrect a reference program in North America. And then that evolved to advocacy because you saw how customers like to talk to customers and they have great stories to tell. So it's like, wow, we have some really happy customers who have great stories to tell. Let's capture that in different ways. Then it evolved to what we're seeing now, which is more general customer marketing. So we're seeing that term a lot more, and that's inclusive of references and advocacy. But you're also seeing account-based marketing come out of customer marketing. And account-based marketing then focuses on your current customers. How can we drive deeper relationships and expand their footprint with our brand? So whether you have AI involved in the front end of the explore and evaluate phases of the customer journey, customer marketing is really coming up to the point of purchasing, but then it takes it beyond that, because you're now seeing that it's really driving more of the marketing strategy. And if you can create that customer-centric mindset, sales is going to be responding in the same way. Customer success is responding in the same way. So it then becomes a company culture. So I think it could be very influential in creating a company culture around the customer.
Do you find that if a company is talking about customer references, are they thinking too narrowly, like for what could be? Or
I think sometimes the term references, just like advocacy or marketing, may get interchanged. Usually I see references as a point in time. There's a request, like we need a customer to speak with this prospect, and you'll hear that from sales. Or we have a renewal. Customer success may say, oh, for this renewal, we need a customer to engage, or we need a few name drops to put in this RFP or what have you. So I see the term reference as a one-time request or a one-off request, whereas advocacy becomes much more proactive, where the customer is self-selecting to engage. It may be on social media, it may be doing a product review or what have you. So I see references being more reactive and advocacy or customer marketing being more proactive.
That makes sense. Gotcha.
When you think about marketing, of course, everything is measured with metrics. So, is there a difference between the metrics that you would use to measure success for customer advocacy versus a customer experience initiative, or have you found that there's a lot of similarity between those two?
So customer experience, having held a role where I had both customer experience and customer advocacy, we had different programs. So for customer experience, we had a customer advisory board. I worked with product marketing, and we established product advisory boards. That's where we're getting feedback on the brand and the products and solutions. We also had a net promoter survey. So after a customer purchased, said time after that, we sent out a survey. So those I saw as more of the voice of the customer, where we're capturing customer feedback. The advocacy, again, going back to that proactive stance, is really engaging with customers who we already know are happy with us, and they want to tell their story for many reasons. It could be for them as an individual to grow their brand, maybe for a promotion in their organization, or maybe for career opportunities down the road. It could be at a team level. They're celebrating their success and having a vendor create a customer story and document it, whether it's a video or a printed story that becomes a digital story, or doing a customer spotlight in a tech forum. That then gives that team recognition, that maybe that is a motivator for them. And it could also be at a brand level. I mean, a lot of times I've come across the challenge of having customers, big brand customers say, well, why do I need to team with your brand? Or I've had, definitely smaller customers that were excited to team with your brand. So there's definitely that give and take that you have there. But I see the advocacy part is usually where they're choosing to proactively engage with your brand versus we're getting feedback from them to maybe offer a better service or a product, or realign our messaging to the customer need.
Okay. And as far as like the metrics go for that, like does everybody want it, like in the company, like I know obviously you as the controller of the programs, you want to see a lot of detail, but what are the most important things like the CEO wants to see? Or is it just growth, or is it something else?
So depending on your strategy and your KPIs, but oftentimes you'll see from a marketing standpoint, you can track through advocacy, leveraging a customer back in your business for a lead generation activity. It could be, talking about your product. It could be speaking at an event on your behalf, what have you. But a lot of times we look at lead generation conversion rates.
Mm-hmm.
You can track those. If you've leveraged a customer reference call, for example, with a prospect, and we get a net new logo, or the customer is expanding their footprint with us, or they're renewing, you can track that down to the revenue influenced by leveraging those advocates with your brand. So that's very quantitatively.
Mm-hmm.
You can also just see in general on a quantitative level, we've attracted X more customers to be participating with our brand, whether it's at a reference level where they want to just talk in a one-on-one call with customers as a reference customer, or they're engaged more proactively like an advocate. So you can, definitely document that, or how many more case studies we received, how many more product reviews we received. So those are very definitely quantitative, but a lot that I'm seeing now is the ability to track the revenue and the lead generation conversion rates.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if we're sort of spotlighting heads of sales and marketing, like how can they align their strategies better with customer advocacy efforts? Like, as from the sort of highest level strategies that they have, what's the best ways for them to align and make sure they're aligning with customer advocacy so they get the benefits of those?
So I see a lot more marketing organizations are having revenue assigned to them as well, like revenue influence numbers. So it's not just about the lead count conversion. So it is aligning to revenue. So they have one thing in common. It's revenue, KPI. But then the second thing is the customer. So you'll see oftentimes sales may view themselves as owning the customer, and marketing as, needing permission to engage with the customer. But it's then coming back and saying we can align on how we collectively will engage the customer. So finding that common denominator on the customer engagement, I think, is what really brings both departments together. Because then identifying what part of the engagement sales has, or customer success has, or anyone in the marketing organization has. That I think, knowing you have common denominators toward a common goal, I think is what brings the two together. And you're leveraging the customers, but you're leveraging the happy customers, the advocates.
Yeah.
Even if the customer advocacy program sits with marketing, that's another common denominator.
And I think actually you just the way you said something sort of hit me as saying even the language you use, because there's always been these issues with like marketing sales versus delivery. And like when you start saying we and you have these common goals, that really I think does change the mindset for that. So
Well, and even creating common dashboards in your
mm,
sales CRM or your marketing CRM. That has been, we did that with our net promoter survey at one of the companies I worked at, and it was incredible. It was accessible to anyone who had access to our sales CRM.
mhm.
They could drill down, and so it was there for everyone to see, and you got to see what part of it you played because it was there in the dashboard, so you could share the success or also discuss what went wrong.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I think in my experience, the most successful teams were the ones that were the sales and marketing were aligned as,
Mm-hmm.
basically one team rather than siloed.
Right.
There's so many times that sales, looks to marketing and the marketing directors to, make sure that lead gen is coming our way, right? So we can close more business and get more customers in the door. So what practical advice would you give to those marketing directors that are looking to improve their lead gen by using the customer references and the testimonials?
I would probably start with just identifying the happy customers, knowing who are your advocates, what are their stories, even if it's not something you've already captured and it's on your website or what have you, but it's bringing those happy customers together in one collective group and then letting them network with each other. I've seen a lot of great things happen in whether it's a technical forum where customers are onboarded and they get to see other customers helping each other out with maybe technical solutions or questions about a product, right? It may be even a customer advocacy forum where it's more about a gamification way to reward your advocates. But definitely, I've seen it where the more you've engaged those customers and you offer them various ways in real time to engage with you, keeping it real, that is one way to get a program up and running very quickly. But the other thing is we've seen success as well in leveraging social media and creating social media ambassadors with your advocates. So when you have a story you've done with them or a video or what have you, that not only are you as a company promoting their story, but they're promoting their story as well, or they're taking the story to the next level because you as a company don't have all of their network, connections in your network. And so it's just one way to plant the seed to grow the community.
I kind of want to throw one more question in for us to sort of talk about it. And we sort of hit on it, but thinking about like a startup, a new business owner, 1 to 3 people, like these smaller groups, like, do you have any sense of when you start thinking of formalizing your process, even if you have like 3 clients? Like, any thoughts on how to make it part of who you are as a company when it's before you get to whatever stage that is? Does that make sense, Zoe?
It does. And I would say start as soon as you can. So if you know that eventually you want to, it's a great retention strategy.
Mm-hmm.
A customer advocacy program is a great retention strategy. So you have one customer. Maybe you have identified internally what their story is, and eventually they will agree or want to engage to tell it externally, whether it's just through a social media post or a product review or whatever. But trying to get that discipline, that muscle working so that it's not just, let's wait until we have 500 customers or 10,000 customers to put a program in place. Let's start practicing at the grassroots level. And it doesn't, and you can start simple and small. It doesn't have to be 10 different activities. It could be one or two.
Mhm.
And then rewarding them to be part of your program. And a reward could be anything you want it to be within their policy, but it could also just be acknowledging them. Many customers are just as happy to be acknowledged
Mhm.
than necessarily giving them anything of nominal value.
Oh, that's really helpful. Thank you. Because even I think about when you just have a few employees, as well as Deb and I talk about often, having a formalized process to acknowledge, reward, train, all those things. The sooner you like the brain muscle kind of thing, getting that habit makes a lot of sense to me. So, okay. Well, cool. Zoe, any closing thoughts you want to share for people trying to figure this space out?
I would just say that customer advocacy to me is a company's biggest differentiator, and it's how you engage these customer advocates will make all the difference in the world.
That makes sense.
Well said.
That is good. All right. Well, thank you, Zoe. I mean, this has really been helpful to break down some of these processes that can sound a little daunting depending on the size of company, but you've really sort of spelled it out of where to get started. So thank you for
Thank you for your
sharing
time.
this today. Thanks everyone for joining us. We hope you have found this episode helpful. Thanks to Zoe for giving us a bunch of knowledge here. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Spotify so that you can not miss future updates of Ready, Set, Action.